A birdwatcher, conservationist, and a wildlife enthusiast for over 30 years. Her passion for art and wildlife has come together and given her to express herself as a wildlife artist. A Sudha from Bangalore is our guest for the day. Let's understand more about her love for nature and her journey as a wildlife artist and the lessons she has learned during the journey, which surely will be of help to upcoming artists. Welcome, Sudha, to Only Green.
Hello, Abby. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to interact with your audience on Only Green. Thank you.
Okay, now when we talk about wildlife art, it requires a lot of detailing and a lot of background study. How did you get into this field of wildlife art?
My husband and I would always go to the wildlife reserves, whenever we had a chance. I wanted my children also to have a love for wildlife. So we kept traveling, and at the same time I was also learning art and learning how to be an artist. And the first time around I didn't realize that I wanted to bring together wildlife and art. So when my children were young, I painted everything that whatever was asked by my teachers. And then um, and then there was a long break in my art, because then I got serious with my family and children, and we moved and all these things happened. And finally, then when my children went for higher studies, they went away from home, then I got back into art. But this time I knew that I really love wildlife, and so I didn't exactly know how to bring them together, but I realized that I kept on painting wildlife, birds, started a lot with birds. And then I joined a group which also, painted wildlife. And then I realized, okay, I think I should call myself a wildlife artist now, because that's all I'm painting. So that's the journey.
Okay. See, I mean, that's what when I started, I was mentioning that it requires a lot of realistic art form than an abstract thing. It requires a lot of study in terms of what you're drawing, species, all these things you require. I mean, the behavior, the habitat, everything. So, how do you handle it?
So basically, you have to go out and see them, because then you realize how they behave. You realize what is the usual habitat that they, where they thrive. Let's say, um, for example, I can tell you, like in birds, because I'm a bird watcher. I know the attitude of each kind of bird which I study. For example, like I painted a Cinerius tit, and I know that they love to be upside down, sideways. They won't be just usually steady on the branches. So, and then some birds love to sit on the top of the trees. Some birds love to sit in the middle, and some birds are like bottom feeders who just go and they'll be scrounging on the ground, among the leaves. So when you paint, it's better that you have observed them in the wild, and then you can compose the painting better.
But this usually can be a hurdle for a beginner. What is your advice
Yes,
for them?
the advice for them is to keep bird watching, keep observing nature. Go out in, if somebody is going to the wildlife reserves like in Karnataka, Kabini and Bandipur and all those, my advice is to accompany them. And if you can afford to start becoming a photographer, then that's like that's an excellent way to, because when you have to photograph the animal or bird, you you do a lot of study, because you know where to wait, where to watch. And so photography is a good way to start. And then also, of course, you can paint your own photographs. So for youngsters, what we do is we take them out bird watching first. And then, they'll ask, like, why do you want to watch birds? What's the reason? So then we say, well, now let's go back inside and draw it. And then that's when they start realizing, oh, just watching birds is not enough. You have to really observe them. So yeah, that's my advice is go out, be there. Internet is a good tool today, but we didn't have it back then,
Okay.
and so it had to be like things that we observe. Um, we used to buy National Geographic magazines, old ones, which we could afford. You can't afford the full
The
subscription, so
current one.
I remember going, scouring the old bookshops and picking up all these old books. But yeah, now internet I think is one of the best in terms of you can observe a bird, and then when you have to paint it, it's really hard to remember. You photograph it, I don't know how good the photography is. So I do use the internet as a reference tool, but nothing beats going out in nature and observe.
Okay. Say, I mean, if you look at this field, it is a field which has a lot of passion in it. I mean, it is purely your passion. Making it a means of living, it doesn't give you a career, it doesn't give you money in terms of making a life out of it. Usually, I mean, I'm not saying that's a general thing, but then for a usual this thing, it doesn't give you a career option, give you life as a career option. So, what is your take on wildlife art as a career?
I know a lot of wildlife artists in the West, in America, England, and Canada, who, for them, this is their primary earning. So, in India, I don't know yet whether you can really make it, your primary earning, but you can supplement your income, let's say. It's kind of like wildlife photography. Like, what do you do with it? You love to do it, and you go out and do it. Photograph. And then I know many wildlife photographers, really excellent, excellent, because they have done so many years of it. They're so good. But it's more expenditure, and I think much less income, right?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I ask permission and use wildlife photographers' photographs. But is it? They say if you follow your passion long enough, you can probably make a good income out of it. For me, it's less an income. It's just still much more a passion.
Okay.
So I mean, I don't know what to say. I do know that in the West, the wildlife paintings sell for a lot of money because people realize that you put so much into it. You've already spent a lot of money in studying the subject and photographing it, and then you have put so much of your skill into drawing and painting it. So yeah, it's a thing, and I know a lot of them in the West who made a good living from it. I in India, I don't know yet, but it's really catching up so well in India. um it's like wildlife art was not even a subsection of art a few years ago. And and actually, when I said I want to become a wildlife artist, a lot of people dissuaded me. They said, no, why do you want to box yourself in? But I said, no, this is my passion, and I'm sure I want to be a wildlife artist. So I think what I can say right now is it can be a supplementary um, profession.
Okay. Okay. Even if it's not your primary profession.
If you're trying to make a living, like, actually, I have a friend in the US who told me, he said, he's a Gujarati, very smart person. He said, if you want to call yourself a professional wildlife artist, then you need to make sure that can you pay your rent, and can you live your living expenses, at least can you meet. It's not just putting 8 hours a day. So I said, wow, that's a tough criteria. I'm not there yet, but I will be.
Okay. Now, I mean, if we see Instagram and other social media platforms, you see a lot of youngsters aspiring wildlife artists. You can see a lot of them today. If there is an advice that you would like to give them, what could be that? And especially, you are also a conservationist. How do you relate wildlife art and conservation?
I personally, I donate like at least 10% of what I earn in wildlife art to conservation causes. Um, I don't even know what advice to give them because I'm still on my journey of success.
Okay.
So it's not like I've reached there and I can give them the advice, but I'm surely getting there. I'm so excited by the response that I'm getting. So my friend had told me about how to define myself. So like I asked him, I said, people ask me, "Are you a professional wildlife artist?" And I say, "Yeah," because I spend so many hours a day and I do it nonstop. So the one thing I will tell youngsters is, if you want to be an artist, you have to basically draw, paint almost every single day. And I do it for about 4 hours a day. I'm like a chain smoker smokes. I'm like a chain artist. Like I have my next canvas ready. I have the idea, I have it drawn out, it's ready. And the other advice I want to give youngsters is not to take shortcuts. Like I would say, like, projecting the image and then tracing it. It's really very tempting. And I have heard that people will even make a light color print on a canvas and then just darken the colors. But that doesn't, then I feel it's a bit like cheating yourself. If you're passionate about being an artist, then you have to do it from scratch. And a lot of people have been asking me to train, to teach. So I told them that I can teach, I'll start teaching soon, but I will not take shortcuts. No, like we had to learn it the tough way. We had to just like take a blank piece of paper and start drawing, right? Draw, erase until you get it right. So I still do that, and I even draw onto my canvas. So what I'm trying to say is, try not to take shortcuts, because then that's the only way you will be a really good artist. And you will also, whenever anyone asks you to draw something, you don't need other aids. Like, you will not look for a projector or a tracing paper. You can just take a piece of paper and draw. So yeah.
So, see, I mean, are you into works which are commissioned to you, or you do what comes to your mind?
um, I love to do whatever comes to my mind, because that's what actually my passion. It's like, it's the excitement of doing what you like, right?
Okay.
But I also do commission work. I also do commission work. Commission work is a little more difficult to do than passion work, but it gives you the income. So
True.
you should do both. Yeah.
Okay. And what are the mediums that you use for the?
I started off with, back in the 90s, I started off with oils and watercolors. And then now recently I've started off with charcoals, soft pastels. Um, yeah, I think that I do a little bit of acrylic on like the background. So like this would be an
Elephant.
acrylic background.
The elephant.
And because when you're in a hurry and you want the background to dry, then I do a little bit of, but I don't think that I like acrylics as much as I like oils. Oils gives me a much more organic feel. And I love watercolors. I love charcoals, tinted charcoals. So these are my favorites.
Okay. Thank you, Sudha. It was great talking to you for some time. Wishing you all the very best, and I'm sure that in the coming days, we will see you as a famous wildlife artist in India. Thanks a lot. All the best.
Thank you, Abby. Thank you for having me on your show. And we'll see you. Bye bye.